What's up, everybody? Happy It's Monday.
It's Monday,
We
buddy.
were we weren't at work today. Happy Labor Day to everybody, and I still thought it was Sunday. Welcome into another episode of the Browns Film Room. I'm Jacob, joined this week by Eddie Mack. What's going on, dude?
Chilling. Just got done drafting another fantasy draft earlier.
I got one in like 3 hours.
Okay, I had one last night. I had two last night, actually. I forgot about another one that in a league for nothing that means nothing.
Yeah.
Yesterday, today, and then on Wednesday we have another draft. So it's football season. It's back.
That's how you know is the abundance of fantasy football drafts that you have. Well, guys, we're brought to you as always by our friends over at Homage Apparel. I don't have my homage on right now just because I totally forgot. We got the Darth dog going on over there with Eddie.
That's right.
Dude, the link in the description down below will take you to their entire Browns collection. So check that out and go from there. So we're here to do a record prediction. And technically it is week one. Like this is the practice week of week one is here. You had your first practice, official like season practice today, kind of a walkthrough and that sort of thing. So we're going to go through game by game and we're going to eventually pick where we think the Browns are going to be this year. I have been steadfast in believing that it's 12. I think it's somewhere around 12. But I think what's really interesting is when you do those sorts of things, you just say a number. You're like, the 12. You say it, and then it's like, well, how do you actually get there? I got the schedule off to my right, so you'll see me keep looking up there. But how do you get there? Where is 12 or 10 or 7 or what it is, whatever that number is for you? Where is that? And I think that's a really interesting kind of exercise. It's fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely fun. And then there's certain weeks where they are on the road back-to-back games. So how does that come in? Do they get out of those 4 games? Do they win 50%, 75%, 100, 0, 25? Like those are what matters. So it is fun to go through. I'm like, yeah, where is this? Because I'm also at 12. Like,
yeah,
I have 12-5 as my record. That I had that the other night on my show, and I'll get to where the game. Some of these games I look at, I'm just like, I can maybe flip that.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now going, it's like, where am I at? So we'll start and preface this by talking a little bit about week one here, just because strictly speaking, we have a pretty good idea what week one's going to look like, barring somebody getting hurt in practice or something along that nature. Joe Burrow's practiced today. I think I think it's always been that he'll be playing in this game. I felt pretty confident about that since the calf injury. But as I said to you pre-show, there was a little bit of rust in a sense that he hadn't been practicing much after his appendectomy last year. And he threw 4 picks in week one. Like, is that going to be a thing? Is that a factor? I think it should at least be in your head when you're thinking about it. And so I think that's really interesting. So I'll start here with week one. This is what I'll say. I'll be there. Very excited. We'll be in the Muni in the morning. We'll have our first pregame show, and I believe we will be calling in from the Muni. Those of us that will be there will be calling into the show. I'm really excited about that.
Live from the Muni. That's what we're going to do every home game. Live from the Muni.
I'm so excited. I am. I'm so very excited. And Nick, I think he thinks that it's not going to happen, but he has said he will do the one chip challenge if the Browns win. He'll do it in Cleveland Browns Stadium. So I'm on a mission to make sure that happens. I'm just not sure how. So we'll get there, And so we're going to go there. And I think ultimately I think week one is the hardest week. I don't care what anybody says, because you've had all off season and it's the hardest one to lose because you've been waiting for this game for 6 months. Like, you're not waiting for week 2 until week 1's over. So it's like the anticipation of it is not the same. I ultimately think they win their first home opener in a really long time, and their second opener in a row for the first time. Have they won? I don't think they've won 2 back-to-back openers since 99.
No, I was actually like looking into that like vaguely the other night. I was sitting around waiting for something, and I was like, let me look into that real quick. I thought about writing about that, And then I was just like, I'm not doing all of that for just a little, like maybe if it was part of like more things than sure, but I was like, yeah, I'm good on that. But I don't know when the last time was because last year they won on the Cade York kick.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the last time they won a season opener even before that, like home or away.
I think it was like 0-2 or something. It was a really bad number. Because I remember the last time they were 2-0 was like 94 or something like that. I was 3. I'll take it. I'll take the Bengals at home. I think that they just I think there's just so much noise. And I think the Browns deserve a lot of the negative publicity and stuff that they're getting. And a lot of that has to do with the track record of the last 20 years and the situation with the quarterback. So, but I think ultimately there are a lot of players on this team that are just being incredibly disrespected, not because of their ability. I'm not even talking about Watson. Throw Watson out. I'm talking about guys like Rodney McLeod and Juan Thornhill and these guys that they added that are being disrespected because now they're wearing an orange helmet, so they must suck now. That's how things work. And it's just an asinine talking point that's happened over and over again. And I think they come out more fired up than you'll ever believe. And I think ultimately, I think it'll be a close game. I think it's going to be fireworks all over the place. And I think ultimately the Browns defensive line will match up well against the Bengals offensive line. And in the end, I think the Browns can walk away 1-0.
Yeah, I also have them 1-0. I actually have like homerism for the first like month of the season, but I'll explain why obviously as we go on. But I have them winning because first off, Joe Burrow hasn't practiced most of the summer. Has been out with the calf injury. Yes, he's practiced, and I hope he plays. I hope he's 100%, and I hope he's the best version of himself week 1. Because I don't want any excuses at all. I just want to go in there and take care of business and beat him, and just make a statement for week 2 and beyond. But he also has a new offensive line to work with. Last year, it should be much improved from last year, where he got sacked like 40-something times. I forget what the actual number is. A bunch.
A lot.
But now the Browns have a new defensive line. So last year I would have said, maybe they can get him a couple times. This year, I really believe they can get him 2 or 3 times at least, especially if he's going to be limited with the cap. And then now you have this revamped line and this revamped system. I think that spells trouble for them. And he's never played well against the Browns, even with Joe Woods as the defensive coordinator. So now there's a defensive coordinator that Joe Woods times 10. And we get to see what that can do. And then the players that they've added, that goes too. So I think that could spell trouble for them. So I think it can be close late. And then I think like the defense gets a big stop and then Chubb just exits the game. That's how I ideally see it.
And you don't let them get an onside kick.
Correct. That's correct. I mean, we just have to joke about that now. Like some people say, like, "Oh, that still makes me mad." Well, I can't let it get me mad anymore. That was some of the dumbest shit I've ever watched, and I just was like dumbfounded and like mad and like confused for
the whole thing
for like 30, 45 minutes at least, and I was just like, "What?"
Well, I had to drive almost 4 hours home after that because I was there. So it was.
Oh, that would have been a terrible car ride. I would have had to play music and like turn the music down and like had it vaguely on.
Just like background noise, a little white noise in the back.
Yes.
I will say though that me and my dad listened to Sirius XM on our way home, and the best thing was the way the Raiders won that game. The lateral that got picked off by Chandler, or something like it. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game, but there was a game
that was later in the year.
There was an Arizona game where they lost like really poorly in overtime or something that we got to listen to. So like it made me a little bit better. Like just it is what it. Okay, so week 2, Monday Night Football. Back-to-back weeks playing Cincinnati in prime time on week 2. I'm sorry, back-to-back years. Having played them Thursday Night Football in week 2 last year and then getting them Monday Night Football this year.
You mean Pittsburgh, right?
What did I say?
You said Cincinnati.
Pittsburgh, yes. It's like, I was like, why is he looking at me like that? Yeah, Pittsburgh. They got him Thursday Night Football last year, week 2, Monday Night Football this year. This one's really kind of tricky for me because I immediately want to think of last year and think that the Browns will get them the first time around and it'll be harder to get them the second time around like it was last year. But they're on the road in Pittsburgh week 2. So like I look at it and I think it over and I think about it. And in the end, I think Pittsburgh, I think they're somewhere in the middle. A lot of Browns fans want them to be really bad, and the media want them to be really good. Oh, I want them to be bad, but like the media just like it's the Steel. The same thing is why the Browns are going to be bad.
Right.
Well, they're the Browns. Well, they're the Steelers. I think they're somewhere in the middle, an 8 or 9 win team, somewhere around there. And I think that the Browns really understand the importance of this early division schedule that they have. And I'm actually gonna take them here in this game very close and start 2-0. And I just think it adds up to. I think that both of these defenses are really good. I think the Browns defensive line and the Steelers defensive line are really good. I don't know what the Steelers have going on at linebacker. A lot of that can be said about the Browns. And ultimately, I like the coach. I can't say I really like Stefanski better than Tomlin because Tomlin's kind of had his number, but I like the coach quarterback combo better in Cleveland. And when there's these close games for me, I lean on the best quarterback and the best coach. And I think that even though Tomlin's a better overall coach, I think the relationship between quarterback and head coach with Stefanski and Watson prevails. And I'll start him at 2-0. But I will say this, I think it's a close game. I think it's like a Dustin Hopkins type game. Like I think that the Browns could start out hot and go up by a couple scores and then fall down by a score, things like that. I think it's ultimately a really close game, but I give the Browns. I think they beat the Steelers at least in week 2.
I also have them winning, but I don't think it's going to be that close. I think it's going to be double digits, at least 10 or more, because I just do not buy into Kenny Pickett whatsoever. Now, if they had a better quarterback, like to me, a better quarterback, then okay, maybe, because George Pickens is a beast, and he's probably their best wide receiver on their team. Deontay Johnson isn't a slouch by any means, but he's not a touchdown getter, really.
He didn't have any last year. Like that's such a weird stat.
He gets a lot of receptions and a lot of yards, and for nothing. But I know that's how Kenny Pickett plays. But like with a defense like the Browns and how everyone envisions it, I just don't see how he's going to have much success. And on the flip side of that, Watson's going to be having people in his face all night that game. But the thing with him is he can escape better and make plays on his feet and run for 7-8 yards if he needs to, or scramble around and launch the ball down to someone. Someone's going to be open somewhere. He can see that, and he'll check into different things. So I really don't think – so I think the Steelers are going to be competitive in games. I don't get the hype, though, with how the national media thinks that they're just like this dark horse contender for anything. Like, they're an injury away on defense from being absolute nothing, because if one of their big three go down for some reason, the whole defense starts to falter a little bit. Not even falter, but they fall off. So it's just like one of them goes down, which could be said for anything, and hopefully that does not happen. But they're just an injury away from that. I don't know how their offensive line is going to be. Their running game isn't anything special. We obviously have the better running game and I think better offensive line. So I think 10+ is the margin of victory here for the Browns.
And I will say there's a lot of cornerback questions in Pittsburgh. Like Patrick Peterson had a pretty good year last year, and I understand that he's been one of the better across the league, but I'm not sure that he can, because he had a kind of a bad year the year before. So I'm not really sure where that secondary is. I mean, Minka's great. Don't get me wrong. I like the safety room, but that's where my questions are, is if Patrick Peterson goes down, I don't know where their answer is at corner. And a lot of that is because I don't know their roster like other people, but that's just where I'm at. Okay, we will go to week 3. We're back at home. And this is the really good stretch that they have where they go home, by home over those 3 weeks. I do not like that week 5 bye at all, but what can you do? So I'm looking at the Titans, and I'm just trying to figure out who they are. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea.
Nobody does.
I love Treylon Burks. He was a guy that I thought the Browns could go with until they traded for Watson and lost that early pick.
I love Hopkins too.
Yeah, Hopkins. That's what I was thinking.
Derrick Henry's great.
Yeah, they're all great. But what are you doing at quarterback?
Right. That's the thing. It's Ryan Tannehill, and then behind him is Will Levis and Malik Hooker.
And who's
Will? Sorry.
I was like, I don't think that's the right Malik.
That's not the right answer.
It's like, wait, hold on. I gotta go consult my notes to make sure we're on the right path here. I just don't know what they're gonna do defensively or on the offensive line. Like, and I just don't know with that offensive line and that quarterback situation. Tannehill's not the Tannehill that got that massive contract from them several years ago. And I like Hopkins, but like, are you a little bit worried that aging all pro wide receivers go to Tennessee to die?
Yeah, that's the thing. Julio Jones, Randy Moss. There's someone else I'm forgetting too.
I can't remember, but there is some there, and it's just, it is what it is. But that just seems, so I worry about. I think Hopkins is fine. I still think he's pretty good, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think they've got enough firepower. I don't think they have the offensive line. So I'm predicting something that I don't think's happened in my lifetime, and I'm going to predict a 3-0 start with them taking care of business at home against the Titans.
Yeah, so this is where the first month of mine is very homerism, because I have them at 3-0 as well, because I simply think that week one, they're the better team just in terms of what they've been able to do together through the offseason than Cincy. I just think they're the better overall team than Pittsburgh, and I think that again with Tennessee. I think they have the better overall roster, and they win in the trenches more than Tennessee does. If you can stop Derrick Henry, I would love for Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball 40, 45 times in that game. Sure. Go ahead. More power to you. I just think the Browns are too good. Even if Denzel Ward isn't even back for this game, which hopefully he is. I doubt he plays this week, but maybe next week. Who knows? But even if you don't have him, I still believe in the Browns secondary to take care of Ryan Tannehill and the pass rush.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
It's just the pass rush is going to be crazy, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like, outside of the Browns bubble, especially the national media, they don't understand that the likes of Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, that's right there 3. You add any of the other pieces around that or inside of that, that's lethal. And like you said earlier, McLeod and Thornhill, I haven't heard much hype around that. If they would have went to other teams, it would have been like, oh, that's the missing piece to a Super Bowl. Okay, well, it could be here too. So I have them winning. I think it can be one of those like close games till the end, and like if the Browns were to win it, they get a score and then somehow get like a pick on the next drive and score again, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, we'll go with that. But
kind of a war of attrition with Nick Chubb probably in that game towards So the second, so week 4, their third home game and their third and final division game in the first 4 weeks, hitting everything, is Baltimore. I'll be up there October 1st. Ultimately, I think this is where they drop the first one. I don't want it to be because I'll be there, but when I'm looking at this schedule, I'm looking at it. You're going into the bye week. Sometimes you get that game right before the bye week, and I know it's really early in the year, but you still get kind of a drop off going into the bye week. I can remember in like 2020 where they played in like that monsoon and they just didn't show up going into the bye week, and it was like, you looked at the rest of that year and you're like, that team did not look like any of the other teams in any of those other games, except for maybe the first week when they got killed by the Ravens. But, it is what it is. But I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I feel like in terms of, if I don't think they get to 4-0. So like my thing is, where are they going to lose in the first quarter going into there? I think ultimately it's the Ravens. I'm not as high on the Ravens as everybody else is. I just don't know if a Todd Monken offense is what's best for Lamar Jackson. And I'm not as sold on OBJ being healthy as some people are. I love Bateman, but he can't stay healthy. Zay Flowers is good, but they're trying to make him out to be an all-pro already, and I think that's a little much. I don't know about their offensive line. They're going to probably be starting a rookie that was their 6th-round pick this year. So you could easily tell me they beat the Ravens, but Lamar Jackson beats the Browns. The Browns beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but Lamar Jackson beats the Browns. And I think this is one of these things where you're trying to potentially lick your wounds going into like a bye week and try to figure out the next 3 quarters of the season without a bye week. I think ultimately there's a little bit Lamar Jackson magic in this game. I think inevitably it's close. The Browns battled. They could win. But I think ultimately that's what their first L is to Lamar at home.
See, this is where we have all the same things. I also said that they're going to lose this game, as did Casey Kinnaman and Zach Weiss the other night. We all had them taking L's on this game. And I think the Ravens are the better coach team, and they have the better front office in terms of what they got. And that doesn't take away what Andrew Berry did this offseason. So I think this has been his best offseason so far. And I probably would have said that when the year John Johnson came, as I was high on him, and that just didn't pan out. But this year, it's like you look at it and it's like, wow, okay, like that guy fits, and that one too, and him, and him, and him. But I still think Lamar is too good. I think people sleep on him too much, and just because of the injuries, he's only missed like 10 games maybe, 8 games, something in the past. But they just happened to be in the past 2 seasons at the end of the season. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think. They're going to be the Ravens. I don't know if their roster is better than the Browns. The Browns might have, but like you said, Lamar just does stuff to the Browns. It just doesn't make sense. I actually have them splitting with the Ravens this year. Actually, I have them splitting with everyone except Pittsburgh in the division. But I'm glad that all 3 division opponents are out of the way after this point until we get down to week 10. Because that shows us where we are in the division now and what we have to be. Because there's a chance both teams could come into this game both 3-0, and they both beat the Bengals in the process. The Browns will beat them first week, and the Ravens will beat them week 2. Because the Ravens have the Texans to open up and the Colts in week 3, where we have the Bengals, Steelers, Titans. They both could be 3-0 at that point. And in bigger games, I'll take the Ravens for now until the Browns learn how to play in them. So 3-1.
Okay, 3-1. We go into the bye week. They'll lose the bye week like they always do. So coming out 3. I love making that joke. It's so stupid and corny, and it is what it is.
Hilarious though.
They come out against the 49ers. Here's where I get a little bit spicy in the sense that there was a FanDuel boost right now. At least there was yesterday when I was looking at it, and I was placing a few futures bets for the NFL season, where you get like a huge boosted odds if the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the 49ers all make the playoffs. And I didn't take the bet because I'm just not sure about the 49ers. Like, Brock Purdy, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that Trey Lance was better than Brock Purdy. I'm not that guy or anything like that. But, like, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason, and now they have film on him. And it's like nothing Purdy does is exceptional. I don't think that. Now, granted, it's Kyle Shanahan. He made Brian Hoyer look exceptional. I get that. I get all of that. I'm just not super sold on that team. And if Nick Bosa is not playing, and there's a chance Nick Bosa doesn't play, it's like you said with the big 3 at Pittsburgh, it's a totally different team because that's just how good Nick Bosa is. Uh-huh. I flip-flop, I go back and forth, and I ultimately think at home I will take the Browns to win this game. But there's probably some surprise. This is a surprise win for some people watching this show, but there's going to be some surprise L's from me as well.
I have sort of the same surprise wins and surprise losses, but I have this being an L. Back-to-back losses, mainly for the pure fact. There's actually 2. The pure fact for first off is I just want to see Browns Twitter explode. If they start off 3-0 and everyone's on top of the world, and then they just lose the next 2 to 2 good-ass teams, I just want to see it explode, because then I think that they can get back on track after that, because the schedule is very favorable for the next month after that. But I just want to see it for that reason. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is I just think that the 49ers are slightly better overall on paper. By the time Bosa play, I think Bosa is going to be on the field in week 6. I could be wrong, but I think he's going to be on the field for that. I just think they have better everywhere, but like the quarterback is better. And normally I would take the side of the quarterback, but the 49ers do everything else so well. They disguise all these different guys on the outside, Debo and Ayuk, and then, we're actually going to give it to McCaffrey, but he's going to line up out there too. So they have a lot of, like, I don't know. I like the way Shanahan runs the offense. I don't know much about Purdy. I saw him last year. I saw him do his thing. But like you said, there's tape on him now. But he also has tape on defenses. If he's good enough and can learn from the tape, and Shanahan's good enough to coach him through it. So I have this as back-to-back losses. I think that's the only time all year. Yeah, it's the only time all year there's back-to-back losses for the Browns for me.
So, yeah, I respect it. I respect it. They could be a really good team. It's just there's always a team that's supposed to be really good that ends up not, and for some reason I've hitched my wagon to that being the 49ers. So I don't know. I'm probably just stupid. This makes no sense. Yeah, this makes no sense. But I have them dropping this game in Indianapolis the next week. There's always one that you look at and during the preseason and during these episodes like this and we talk and we hash it all out and we break it all down and we look at this stuff and we say, wow, how'd you lose that game? I think this is that game. I think this is the game where they come off of a big win against the 49ers coming out of the bye week, and I think they just have a letdown. I think Anthony Richardson presents the same problems as Lamar. I think that there's a good chance that he comes out there and what's his name? Shane Steichen. Is that how I say his name?
Yeah.
Okay. I think he looks at this situation and says, I can see how Lamar is always, and I get it. Lamar's killed the Browns with Joe Woods. I get that. I understand the differences there, but I think if Lamar continues to have success against the Browns, Steichen can look here at ways to do the same thing with Anthony Richardson. There's just always going to be some L's that are out there that don't make sense. And I think that ultimately they underestimate the Colts coming off a huge win against the Niners. And I think they drop their second game at that point.
So, yeah, there are a lot of things. Like any given Sunday, they say in the NFL. And that's why the NFL is so great, because you never know. Everyone can think. We can be the smartest people that talk Browns in the world. And then like, oh, yeah, there's no way they lose this game. Well, Nick Chubb scores and then the onside kick and all that other nonsense, right? And then the Falcons game, nobody in their right mind had that being a losing game for them last year. Nobody, not national media, not us as Browns fans, not whoever. And just like, okay, so there are those guys. So I can see where you're coming from on that. And I think I have one of those later. But to me, I don't think the Colts are that good. I think Richardson is going to be fantastic. But sadly, he doesn't have Jonathan Taylor for the first, 4 weeks. So he should be back for this game. So maybe he will be a little bit better because he'll have Jonathan Taylor for a couple weeks prior to that. But I just think that they're just not overall a good franchise or a good team. And I had the Browns come in here and just steamroll them because it's the first time away from Cleveland in a month. Yeah. So, all right, cool. We're, as rested up as we can be despite playing games. We haven't traveled anywhere. We've been staying home, eating our home cooking. We go on there, take care of business.
I'm really, this Browns season schedule poster that they handed out at training camp has the home games in white and the away games in orange, and I think it should be the other way around, and it's really throwing me off. It's I'm
maybe because of the jerseys they wear, white at home, but
I guess.
I don't know.
Shit, whatever. All right, so they'll go and travel to the West Coast. This is where I probably the only time I'll have it, but I have back-to-back losses there. The upsetting loss against the Colts. I think you add that in to crossing across over to Seattle. Seattle's good, man. It's all about Geno Smith. Can he still be that guy from last year? Which people are going to be like, well, you say the thing that you say about Brock Purdy. Well, they've got film on him. Well, they've had a ton of film on Geno, and he still did what he did last year. So I think that system, that scheme, and those weapons, and you added Jackson Smith and Jigba to that mix. You added Devon Witherspoon for how they do. They trade Russell Wilson. Geno Smith earns a massive contract. Then they get Tariq Woolen later on in the draft. He was just so good.
He might be the fastest dude in the NFL.
Yeah. And then they're like, we're going to go get I think Devon Witherspoon was the best corner in this class. So they then gave Tariq Woolen that, and they added Jackson Smith and Jigba to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
That's crazy.
It all adds up to a game where I think it ends up being just too much for the Browns. And I think that I think they're competitive in all of these games. So I think they're competitive in this. Man, I think Seattle's got a real shot to be a dark horse Super Bowl contender. And maybe it's not dark horse because, a lot of people know who they are. But that's my back-to-back loss, and I'll drop them down to 4-3 after a 4-1 start.
I also have them losing here because just going on the road to Seattle, a tough place to play as it is. You can say Pete Carroll is obviously the better coach than Kevin Stefanski because obviously longevity. But in recent years, look what they've had similar hands dealt to them. A quarterback that's like, okay, we can win with him. Well, Kevin Stefanski did that 1 year and hasn't done since. But then Pete Carroll just did it with Geno. All right, hey, we'll stick with you. We're going to stick with this. Oh, here's another kid that we just got in the draft that go ahead and throw to him too because he's good too. Their defense is always good. The 12th man always plays a factor. So that's where I have them getting their third loss of the year because that's just a tough place to play, and that team is just tough. I think I don't know. It's going to be a toss-up between them and the 49ers for the division. I think it's ultimately the 49ers, but I think the Seahawks make the playoffs regardless. So tough game, and if you lose that game, it's like, okay, like they're a playoff team. It's like, okay, but if you lose like to the Colts the week before or to this next game, the Cardinals, then okay, it's like, okay, what's going on?
Then I'm telling you, a loss to the Colts in Seattle is going to be what if it comes to pass. That is going to be some fun times on Browns Twitter.
It's going to be great. Browns Twitter is going to be great regardless because I'm going to have fun either way because I'm either going to agree with most people and be like, yeah, this happened and this was great. Oh, hey, this didn't happen because of this. Okay, you look like an idiot. Like,
yep.
They're 3-1 right now. Oh, well, they're 3-1. That's all we can say is 3 and so forth and so on throughout the season.
It's like, eat me. I don't think we got to talk about Week 9. They'll beat the Cardinals.
Whoop their ass is what I basically said. Like the only thing, Casey Kinnaman brought this up the other night. I forget if we brought up pre-show and then on my show where he said this is going to be the Josh Dobbs revenge game, and Josh Dobbs is going to kill us. Happens every year. There's someone that kills us that used to play for us.
You're right.
So, but no, they will. The Cardinals, I don't know if they win a game all year. I don't know if they win a single game.
They have the most epic. Did you see that that speech from their head coach that was like released?
I didn't watch it, but I saw like some people had like quotes from it and said something like, I don't even know what it said. I was just like,
he like basically told them they sucked. I feel like that he basically was like, we suck. We're gonna. That's not what he said, but it's like
work hard. Basically, come in here and work hard.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, hey, we got a real chance to win,
no.
2 or 3 of our first 4 games. No. Yeah,
he did not say that.
I just can't get into him because, like, I don't care anything about the Cardinals at all. I don't care about them at all. Like, there's nothing about them that's appealing to me. Maybe a few guys I have in fantasy. I think I have Rondale Moore. Maybe I drafted him earlier. But I'm just like, without Kyler there, I don't really care.
Yeah, because Kyler's just good TV. Okay, on the road, second matchup with the Ravens. I always think about that. Like when I do these predictions, I'm always in these series with opponents that I think they're going to split, which is what I think they do with the Ravens. I almost always go with the home game first, but I'm actually going to go. I had the home game being their first loss. I'm actually going to have them beat them on the road. And I think it stems from that first loss. I think, to me, whenever you saw a Joe Woods defense get dismantled by one of the divisional opponents, it just happened again the next time.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens with Jim Schwartz. And I think ultimately that's why they win it, and it's with defense. As long as that defense is healthy, what is that, November 12th? By November 12th, they're going to have hit their stride. They're going to be figuring things out. I wrote an article earlier today that's on Brownswire. You can check it out on why this is Myles Garrett's best shot at Defensive Player of the Year so far and maybe ever. And that's these 3 numbers I'm about to tell you. It's Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and Ogbo Okoronkwo's pressures last year. 73 for Myles, 78 for Zadarius, 36 for Okoronkwo, who was one of the highest double-teamed players in football last year. And you're looking at their sacks as 16, 10, and 5. So you're looking at 31 sacks and like 180 pressures.
170, 80 something, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at that, and you're saying now Lamar's going to be a pocket passer dropping back. They're going to pin him in and I think go at him, and I think they handily take care of Baltimore in the second showdown.
See, I'm split on them as well. I had them both winning on the road. They go to each other's place and win. But I think it's going to come down to the kicker at the end of the game. Whoever has the ball last, basically. I think the Ravens get it last in the first week in Cleveland. Lamar drives them down, and Tucker boots a 52-yarder, whatever. Okay, if he does that, okay, it's Justin Tucker.
You can't do anything about that. That's happened before.
But then I think we flip that on them. And should Dustin Hawkins pan out like a lot of us think he should, because he's a 10-year vet and he makes a lot of his kicks. Like, he's been very productive in his career. I think Deshaun gets the next chance at it, takes them down the field. He kicks a however many yarder game winner, boom, and they split. So by have them both winning in each other's home arena on the road.
So they go back home for Pittsburgh. Their first. Yeah. So the second matchup with Pittsburgh, November 19th, week 11. They go home. Yeah, I'm sweeping the Steelers this year. I feel confident that we're finally there. I know that it all comes down to Kenny Pickett at that point, because if Kenny Pickett is truly the savior that some of them think he is, I'll just say I've thought there was a lot of saviors in Cleveland, so that's all I'll say.
I get it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I know what you're laughing about because I agree. I've been there. By then, if he is a savior, you'll know by then.
Yeah.
By then, I just think the Browns' defensive line overwhelms him. Just overwhelms Pittsburgh in that second matchup. And yeah, man, like, I'm going to sit here and tell you I think they sweep the Steelers. Could they split it or get swept? Yeah, I can find scenarios where that happens too. But I ultimately think they're the better team. They beat Baltimore. They beat Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks, and they feel really, really good. What is that? 2, 4, 7-3 at that point. They feel really, really good heading on the road to Denver the next week.
And they'd be 4-1 in the division if the rest of our predictions came true.
Yeah.
So sweep the Steelers. It's 2. Another one against the Ravens. That's 3.
And then the first one against
Bengals, 4.
Yeah.
So that's a good spot to be in. Absolutely. Yeah, I think they whooped the Steelers ass even more than this time. I think it's like 3-score game this time, because just as you said, we're going to know where everyone's at that point in the season. It's week 11. I don't think Kenny Pickett is anything. I don't think he's very good. A lot of people look what we did last year. What did he do, though? Like, he had some impressive drives, but, like, what did he do? Like, I can't remember a single Kenny Pickett play, honest to God. I can remember a play or two from most anyone that you can name. Not most anyone, but a lot of people you can name. Kenny Pickett's just not up there. And maybe because I hate them so much. But here's where the Browns need to finally start whooping the shit out of the Steelers, because for 20-plus years, it was Roethlisberger doing that to us year after year. So now I hope it's Watson, and I hope they go through quarterback hell. Yeah, he's the savior, Pittsburgh. Yeah, he's your savior, until he's not. And then there's someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else. I hope they have a list longer than ours in terms of quarterbacks. I don't think that happens because they're too prideful of an organization to let that happen. They would just stick with someone and just be like, oh, that's our guy. It's our guy. It's our guy. It's our guy.
Yeah.
But they whooped their ass this week, and that's just what it is. I hate it.
Heading west to Denver, Mile High, after the Steelers for the Week 12 matchup, their 11th game of the season. All I can think about is the last time they were in Denver. Baker Mayfield shaved more times than he threw touchdown passes that day. I think, and I know that if Randy Gurzy is watching this, he will be very excited, because he believes that Sean Payton is the most overrated coach of all time, I think they're better. I'm not that scared of Denver. I'll take the Browns in this game. They continue to lose their wide receivers. Like, I don't know what's going on over there, but between injury, they just injury after injury. It's horrible to watch, man. Like, and so while I think Russell Wilson will be better, I just don't know what the weapon situation is going to look like. Like, you've got guys going down for seasons on multiple years. Jerry Jeudy's not 100% right now. I think that offensive line is fine. I think their defense is pretty good. I think they've got a good defense, but ultimately I look at it and I just see the Browns are rounding into playoff form at that time. And that's my biggest reason for saying I think they take that W and go to 8-3.
So because of that reasoning, playoffs are gearing up and Browns are right in the thick of things, I think that's where they lose because the first of back-to-back weeks on the road, but then they don't have to travel back home, back across the country. They're staying out there because Los Angeles is the next week. But I really think this is one of those sneaky games where it goes in like, yeah, the Browns on paper have the way better roster. And who knows what receivers Russell Wilson will have by the time we get to that game, if he has any. But I think the Browns roster is better. But at the same time, it's just one of those games. You go up in the altitude. Some players don't adjust to that well. Some players do not. And, that could play a factor. Denver's obviously used to playing there. That's where they play all their home games. And here comes Cleveland traveling across the country, going up in the altitude. I just don't trust that game. That's one of those sneaky L's I have where just like, okay, we should win this game easily. And then here comes, Russell Wilson with a game-winning drive.
This is where it gets weird for me. Going to LA, like you mentioned. This is where it gets weird because I'm going to take them to win against the Rams and extend their winning streak to 5 games at that point, which would put them at 10-3. And I know I'm like, a lot of people are going to be like, you're a homer, and I am.
You should be.
I'm trying to. Yeah, it's fun. What are you scared about? Like, I think Stafford is fine if he's healthy. Like, I know people think he's kind of. I think there's. After last year, there's just such a narrative that he's completely washed.
Yeah, I don't understand that. He was just hurt.
Yeah, and it was like, and so was everybody he threw to. But I will say this: like this Cooper Kupp situation, where he's already getting a second opinion on that hamstring again, that's concerning. Yeah,
like our dynasty league, yeah, that's real.
Yeah, because he's an MVP. He's like he had an MVP season. No matter who the award actually went to, he was the MVP that year. And I mean, he was the MVP in the playoffs to get them to the Super Bowl. Like it was just. I can be honest with you. I was thinking about this. John Johnson's on that defense. That's the only guy I know on that defense outside of Aaron Donald. Who else is on that defense?
That's a great question.
That's my point.
That's a great question. I gotta look this up now because I don't know.
I feel like I'm being disrespectful to somebody because they probably have more talent than that. But like, they made like 10 draft picks this year. Like, it was like the Browns during the Sashi Brown era when they picked like 14 and they all made the roster.
So I'm looking at these.
You don't know who they are, do you?
I don't know who any of these people are.
Okay.
So, yeah.
5 wins. Moving on.
Yeah, I have them winning here just because I think they get to stay out that way, get the game plan all week for them, and then boom, they're pissed off they lost to Denver. If they lose, obviously.
That could be another sneaky one that they couldn't lose though. Like if they beat Denver,
like instead of like going home and like resetting even for 12 hours. Yeah, I can see that actually. I said because like if they're not going home, they're not going to see their wife and kids probably for another week. That's just obviously part of the nature of it. Unless they obviously come out. Not everyone has that ability to have their family come out and watch them play no matter where they're at. So, like, even going home for that 12-hour span, you get to see the kids and the wife and do all this and, like, be in your own bed. And then, all right, well, practice tomorrow and we're off that afternoon. Yeah, I can see that happening, yeah.
So they go to Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Jacksonville comes to Cleveland on the back end. And that's lost 4 for me. I think you're coming on in my situation, they just went on a West Coast 2-weeker, won both of those games, and they come home, and I think that Jacksonville offense is going to be nasty. Throwing Calvin Ridley into that because Calvin Ridley got his body and his mind right, and most importantly his mind because he was in a very dark place mentally, but like. I haven't seen a clip of Calvin Ridley in this offseason where I didn't go, oh, okay. Like,
looks like he's going like in double time speed. Like he's that much fast. Like what?
He's faster than everybody.
And it's just like, wow, okay. Like I'm hoping to get him in fantasy drafts. I missed out on him earlier today, and I missed out on him last night in the league. But in our dynasty, we have with the network and some other people, I have him. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get him because like he's gonna be good. I don't care what anyone says. He's gonna be good.
He has a really good shot there, but I think, yes, right. And I think ultimately it's one of those games where I just don't think they have enough firepower, man. Like, don't get me wrong, the Browns have a ton of firepower, but like, I just think coming back in a situation, I think that they end up losing probably some kind of shootout or something like that. And I just think that ultimately, at least sitting here in September, I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars offense is better than Cleveland. And that's saying something because I really think the Browns offense can be pretty good.
So I actually have this as a win, and I think it could be a playoff preview. I think if the Browns don't win the division, and Jacksonville is probably more than likely going to win their division, they could meet in that first wild card weekend, depending on how they're seeded and record wise. So I think this would be one of those games where like the Browns know that they are, but they aren't competing with them for a playoff spot because their playoff spot is probably going to be already more clear. Like, they only have to win 3 more games from here on out to win the division, and we have to do whatever else. But I think Deshaun comes out and just, it feels like a playoff game to him, and he just performs as what we think he can in the playoffs against a team that's more than likely going to win their division. They're going to make the playoffs regardless, I think, in this. But I think it's the division. So I don't think anyone else from that division comes out and goes to the playoffs. The Titans aren't going to win more than 8 or 9 games. Colts are going to flirt with 3 or 4 wins, maybe. And the Texans, 3 or 4 wins again, maybe.
Yep.
So, yeah. I think this could be a potential playoff preview, and I think that there are people. Obviously, the national media will be like, "Oh, Jaguars," because Trevor Lawrence and he's playing well. But if Deshaun's also playing well, it's going to be underneath, and then Deshaun can just be like, "All right, you know what? Cool, boom, I'm better tonight. See ya." So I got that one in that.
So home against Chicago. Chicago's going to be a lot better.
That's going to be a tougher game than people think. I think
it is.
I think it's a win regardless, but I think it's going to be a little bit tougher because Justin Fields just can do a lot. And they have a lot better weapons this year than they had the past couple of years that we've seen them.
I just can't quite figure out their defense.
I don't know. It's like a mix of like name guys and like some guys that can play. And like name guys don't always play and like.
Well, and you just gave so much money to a pair of off-ball linebackers. And I'm like, don't get me wrong. When they got one off-ball linebacker after trading Roquan Smith, I was like, great. And then they signed another one to a similar deal. And I was like, just keep Roquan Smith then. Because he's better, but whatever. And, I know they get the picks. They move those things around. I think their offense is going to be pretty good. I really think that DJ Moore is exactly what Justin Fields needs. I think that offensive line is better. Not quite there yet, but better. And with Fields, just like with Watson, you don't have to be truly elite. But if you can be average to above average, and I think they will be, I think that it puts Justin Fields in some really good positions. Ultimately, I think the Browns take the win here because I think their offense is too much for Chicago's defense. But, this could be one of the teams, just like the week before against Jacksonville, where the Browns surrender some of the most points they will all year because I think Chicago's offense can be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think the Browns do take it, but I think the Bears keep it close for the first half, and then the Browns offense, like you said, they're just slightly better than actually not even slightly, they're significantly better than the Bears defense, and I think they realize that and then exert themselves. So I think it's close half, and then the Browns just run away with it in the second half, and it's not close after that. But the score won't be indicative of how close the game is. But the game will be close. Like the Browns are going to have to earn those points and those takeaways and stuff. So, yeah, have them winning here.
Christmas Eve, they're back in Houston again. Watson's back in Houston. He was not good in Houston last time. It was like there was moments where you're like, yeah, but he probably wants a do-over.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I'll take the win there. I'll take the win over the Texans again. Another team that will be better, but they lost their best pass rusher. They did draft Will Anderson, who that's such an intriguing, I can't believe what they gave up to get Will Anderson, but I really like getting CJ Stroud and Will Anderson just because you got some really blue chip players, I think, on both sides of the ball. Getting John Mechie back, I think, is going to be an underrated situation for them down there, and I think CJ's pretty good. Ultimately, it's another offense that I think can be pretty good that late in the year, but I don't think that defense is stopping anybody. And I think ultimately the Browns go down to Houston, and it goes much better than the original return to Houston did.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be one of those games. Like, I think Deshaun's gonna have a few of them this year, like statement games. Like, yeah, like that's who I am. I think he's gonna do that this year because his return to Houston, all that nonsense off the field happened. Primarily there. He's linked to them forever. That's who he was drafted by. But then, like you said, the first game of the year that he comes back and plays after 700 days off, it's against the Texans, and he stunk up the joint for the most part. And he played better at different times throughout the season, and it wasn't. 6 games is a weird thing to stretch, or a 6-game stretch is weird to like look at and be like, oh, because we saw him do some really great things and some very terrible things. Like it was just what it was. But I think that's all behind now, and this is week 16, so they're fully into it. The playoffs are right around the corner. I think he goes down, has one of his best games of the year to just shut the whole chapter of Deshaun Watson and the Texans. Boom, over. Obviously, they'll play each other in the future. Like this can just see ya. Now we're onto the playoffs, hopefully, or close to it.
I think that. 1, 2, 3. That doesn't make any sense. I got 16 written down already, and they got 2 games left. What did I do?
You got 16 what?
I got 16 games written down already.
Did you put the bye in?
I guess. Shit, I don't know what I did there.
Because if you missed the bye week, then you would have just went Bengals, Steelers, Titans, Ravens, Niners.
Probably. Who knows? Fucking knows. All right, so they go Thursday night. The Jets return. I've watched some clips from Hard Knocks, and it feels very Browns 2080, 2019 to me. I meant to say 2019, not 2080. 2019, where it was like a lot of names and a really bad coach. Like Nathaniel Hackett as your OC. Here's the thing. You know who Nathaniel Hackett is? Are you ready for this? He's Adam Gase.
Oh.
And what I mean by that is, do you remember how sought after Adam Gase was when he was Peyton Manning's OC in Denver for those massive record-setting years that Peyton had?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, Peyton loves this guy. He's going to be the best. And he gets 2 head coaching jobs out of that. And he wasn't good at the first one. So how he got the second one is whatever it is. But they all got that over him having success with Peyton Manning, a Hall of Famer. He got all that success. And I think Nathaniel Hackett, it's the same thing just for Aaron Rodgers. He gets that job. Now, part of the reason he gets a job in Denver is that Denver thought they were getting Aaron Rodgers. And that was part of it. They're like, yep, we're getting Aaron Rodgers. And ultimately, he doesn't go anywhere. And when he does go somewhere, of course, Denver had already gotten Russell Wilson. But that was them trying to lure it away. And he was just terrible. And it just reminds me of Adam Gase, and it reminds me of Freddie Kitchens. And Freddie Kitchens, of course, he was propped up by another assistant coach. It was believed that Ken Zambezi was the real architect of the 5-3 record with Triple G. But that's just what Nathaniel Hackett reminds me of. I don't know many players, many fans or media members in New York that thought Robert Saleh was worth a damn last year. They wanted to get rid of him. I saw it up and down all over the place. Now they're all for him, which they should be. You should be all for your head coach at the beginning of the year, especially they're set up this way. I don't think they've got good coaches. There's so much of this like God complex around Aaron Rodgers. Like these players are like worshiping him. They're doing really weird shit. Like Dalvin Cook was signing stuff at training camp when he wasn't even on the team yet. Like that's some shenanigans to me. And I think this team falls apart late, and I think the Browns take care of business.
So I think it's actually good for Rodgers. He has Hackett back, and they can go back to work, and especially with Garrett Wilson. But I think I said this the other night on my show that I think they're going to have peaks and valleys of the season. It's going to be a real roller coaster up and down for them. I don't think they get off to a great start. I think they pick it up, somewhere along the way, falter back down, pick it back up, and then at the last month of the season, just start to falter again. And that's just, I don't know. The whole ordeal is just strange to me because if you told me 5 years ago that Aaron Rodgers and Dalvin Cook would play on the same team in New York, I would have said you're nuts. But then obviously Rodgers played his hand, won it out of Green Bay. but I think the Browns win this game. I think this could be another one of those games where it could be somewhat of like an eliminator from the playoffs. Like if you lose, like your chances are really hurt at the playoffs. If you win, you're either like further into the playoffs or right on the brink of making it. And it makes the last week more meaningful. So I think the Browns win this one too.
I don't know how to predict the week 18 with the Bengals because I don't know where the Bengals are going to be, where the Browns are going to be, and where the rest of the division is going to be. Ultimately, like I know where I think the Browns are going to be. I think they're 12-4 entering this game. I think they lose this game. I'm not sure if it decides the division, if it decides a wild card, what it is, but I think ultimately they go on the road in Cincy, and if this game means anything, I think the Bengals find a way to win that, especially after losing week 1, because there's all this. I'm telling you, when you play a division opponent week 1 and then again towards the end of the year, like you had all this trash talk, everything living up to that moment, and finally that moment comes and it passes and you lose, and you have to sit there and deal with that all year until the final game in this case. So ultimately, either way, I think they'll lose this game. If it means something, if it doesn't mean something, because I can't think of it that way. But ultimately, I think they lose that final game, and that's how I arrive at 12-5.
So I also have them losing. So I have them splitting with them, the Ravens sweeping the Steelers. I think week 1, Joe Burrow is not 100%, like we said. Week 18, hopefully he is, his normal self, and he's an MVP candidate and all that good stuff. I really think this game is going to come down to who is one of the top 4 seeds and who's one of the 3 seeds after that. I think both of these teams make the playoffs, and I think this game is going to decide who wins the division and who's going as a wild card, which they could very well play each other the very next week.
Yeah, just like they did with Pittsburgh in 2020. Right,
exactly. It could be something like that. Obviously, a little bit different circumstances, but I think the winner of this wins the division, and I think the loser still makes the playoffs. But I might trust the Bengals more in this scenario because they played in more meaningful games later into the season than what the Browns had. They made it to the AFC Championship game a couple times, made it to the Super Bowl, obviously. I just think they have the experience there, but then anything can happen in the playoffs. So then you just flip one or two little things if you play them again down the road or even the next week. It'll be a different outcome. There'll be, series will be even at that point. Rubber match. Perfect. Playoff. Let's do it.
Yeah. And there it is. There it is. There's your 2023 Browns record prediction here on the Browns Film Room. We appreciate you guys for stopping by. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. Even if you don't like it, like it anyway. I don't give a shit. I don't care about your feelings. I'm kidding. Thank you.
I thought we were going to heel turn. That was sweet.
So where did that come from? Thank you guys for stopping by. Tomorrow, Tuesday, the Barking Browns will be back with our bold predictions of the season. So some stats, some Pro Bowl numbers, some not wins. We did wins already. Maybe Nick will do
7 though before that.
Yard Dogs is 7 before us.
I think if they're not traveling, they might be traveling. I don't know. I never know.
They're always traveling.
One of them always is traveling. One of the 3 of them is always in move somewhere.
Yeah. And so they end up. We'll see. So thank you guys all for joining us. Subscribe. We'll talk to you guys again next time. So as always, go Browns.
Go Browns.